We worked on the action creators for orders, and we worked on being able to dispatch them. Now we need to manage the order state through our reducer, of course. And for that, I'll go to the order file in the reducers folder. And first of all, I'll import my action types here because I need them in my switch case statement. So I need to reach out to actions and their action types. Next, I'll create a constant which I'll name order, or just reducer because it is my reducer function here in the end. And I will make this a normal reducer. So a function which receives two inputs, the state and the action, as you learned it. Now I want to set up an initial state for this reducer too. So I'll name that property, that constant, initial state. It should be a JavaScript object. And now there I need a little bit of information. I certainly want to have all my orders. Could be an array like that. I also want to know if we are in the process of ordering or if we are done. So we can add a property purchasing or loading and set it to false. And it should be false initially. It should be set to true once we did start ordering, of course. Now the one issue we'll face immediately is that in our order action creator, we only handle success and fail. The start action here doesn't actually dispatch anything we can catch in Redux. We instead run some async code to dispatch other actions, which is a normal pattern. But since we probably want to update our loading property in our state when we start loading, we need an additional action we dispatch. So that's something we should keep in mind, and I'll handle in the next lecture. In this lecture here, let's work on the actions we already have. So in my reducer, before I add my switch case statement, I'll set my state equal to the initial state so that we have a state initially, and then I'll add my switch case statement. So I'll switch my action type, and now I want to handle my different cases, of course. So I'll have a case here, which is action types, and then it is that our purchase succeeded. Here I then want to return a certain state. I'll work on this soon. The next case is that I got action type purchase burger fail. Then I want to return a different state, obviously. And then I got my default case where I simply want to return the current state. This is, by the way, very important since we're combining a couple of reducers soon. We of course need to be able to return something if it's an action which is handled in a different reducer. In the end, I want to export my reducer function here as the file default. Now let's work on the logic. Upon success, I obviously want to store this order in my orders array. And I want to set loading to false because we're done. So I'll first of all copy the old state. Then I'll set loading to false. And then I need to update my orders. Now, the orders should be my old orders, and I concatenate a new item. And as you learned, concat returns a new array, and therefore we added this immutably. Now, that new order I want to add here actually is the order I receive from via the action. We can see this in the order action creator. There we receive order data, but we also receive the order ID on a separate property. I need to merge both together into one object here. So what I'll do in my order.js file, I'll simply add a new constant here, new order maybe, and I'll set it equal to a JavaScript object where I first of all paste all the properties of action order data. That is the order data we also passed on to the server. And I add a new property ID, which is action order ID. That is referring to that other property. And that is the ID we will get back from the server. With that, I have a new order, and that is what I want to concatenate here. New order. Now, for failing, I want to return the old state. I certainly don't want to clear my orders, But I want to set loading to false, of course, also, because even if it failed, we're still done. And the error should be handled through that modal, since we added the with error handler higher order component to contact data. Now that we're viewing this, I'm also seeing a mistake I made here, but I'll fix this in the next lecture together with you too. So first of all, back to the reducer. We're now handling success and fail case. This is looking good. Now let's fix this error I just saw, and let's make sure that we set loading to true when we start fetching a burger.